a guest on the Read podcast, and you told a story about that intersection between research and education, where you went to a professional development workshop with your mom. And so was that even before Holy Cross maybe? So did that, seeing that professional development workshop, also influence your desire to learn more?
It did. And it wasn't just one workshop. It was many different professional development offerings that I would go with my mom to. And I just kept noticing that sometimes what I was learning in these PD workshops and what these other teachers were learning didn't necessarily align with what I was reading about from my college courses and learning about in terms of how children learn in general, or specifically how children learn to read. So I noticed this kind of gap rather early on, and that's really been the mission of my research program since then.
So it's been a recurring theme on our podcast, actually, that need to more effectively connect what we know from research into the classroom. So through your work, what do you see as the most significant barrier or barriers? What's really preventing these evidence-based practices from being implemented?
So I think it's really hard, and I don't know that we always really think about how incredible the work that everyone is doing, researchers, practitioners, folks at the systems levels. This is really hard to do. So first, I think we need to actually acknowledge that. This is not going to be a super simple, we generate this in research and then it moves into practice, right? We really need that arrow going both ways. And it takes a lot as we're learning from implementation science to be able to do that. I also think that some of the ways that we think about the science of reading are perhaps dichotomous, in that in a way that is a barrier to being able to smoothly move between research and practice. So for example, I think there's still this misperception that science of reading is only about decoding and word recognition and phonics.
Yeah.
And so it becomes this like either or, right? Like either you're doing that or you're not, as opposed to recognizing that there are multiple components. And yes, you have to, it is critical and foundational to devote time to supporting skills related to decoding and word recognition. But at the same time, we're having to balance that. I hate to use the term balance because that's a no term right now.
Could be misinterpreted.
Yes. But we have to do, we have to provide opportunities for children to enjoy reading, to be motivated to read, and also focus on the other components that are just as important for reading and reading comprehension. So stopping to think about this as dichotomous, either you are science of reading or you're not, or things like that, it's phonics or whole language. I think moving beyond that would really be helpful in us being able to better leverage evidence-based practices and see those implemented. I also think that there are other dichotomies that restrict our thinking around this. So for example, I think a lot of folks are looking for a panacea, right? There is no one way that is going to work for all children. And so do you want to have an evidence-based curriculum? Yes. Do you want to be using evidence-based materials and evidence-based practices? Yes. But within all of that, we're needing to really individualize and differentiate for the actual children that are in the classroom. And so there's not going to be this magic bullet that is going to immediately affect and improve literacy skills for kids. We really have to think of it as being kind of a system, and it has many different pieces.